put my new rhinestone earrings in my favorite pouch. What's in the
Who is that?
Who's your sugar? What are you doing home this time and of the dead?
I thought I'd surprise you. Aren't you happy? Aren't you a little excited?
David, you've been drinking. How many drinks have you had at
You
this
must
point?
join. You must have a little.
No, I have
rehearsal.
I have to be to work very soon, so I can't stay.
You can't stay.
I have to go, but I'll get home tonight and maybe we'll watch a movie. Try to get
Maybe
some
we'll watch a
sleep.
movie, some sleep? No, I don't think so. No, I need a cure from this.
A cure?
Yeah.
Only cure you need is
cure.
some sleep and stop your drinking. I've got to go.
I'm getting tired of getting pushed away by you. You know that? I'm getting real tired of it. I don't like to play these games.
I'm not playing a game. I need to go to work, baby.
Baby, look at the teddy bear. I can't help but notice my eye keeps going to it.
What about it? I have my costumes.
Oh, your costumes? I'd like to see it.
I'm showing your bag, David. I'll show you. She asked us to bring in some pieces of our lingerie. She wants to make it a more sensual type.
Oh, she wants to make it a little more sensual.
So she asked me to bring in some pieces so she can get an idea for new costumes.
Are you supposed to parade around in that?
And just the regular.
In the regular costume?
David,
What are you trying to hide?
look, what are you trying to play detective on me?
Right, I'm detective. Right.
Look, it's your bag anyway. Those must be your Trojans. Who knows what you do staying out late at night all drunk and everything like that. Half drunk. And then you can just
Better not
accuse
forget those, huh? Better not forget those. Might cut back on your fun, huh?
No, you're accusing me, David.
Now, is that the woman I have here, Stella Winston? Is that you on film?
Yes, that is. That's been some time ago.
Ah.
You know, the name of the movie is called Fruits of Passion.
Fruits of
And I
Passion.
played a character called Sparkling Cider.
Oh.
And what you saw was her husband found out that she was having an affair, and
So that was her husband?
Yeah, that
because we couldn't hear it here in studio.
yeah, right.
So, this is the first time I've seen that clip.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so a private detective followed her and found out that she was having an affair, and he's confronting her. So she had to come up with a quick story about why she had the lingerie and the Trojans in her bag. So of course you could tell by the altercation that it didn't end well.
I thought you were going to knock him out.
Well, you know, I was ready to. I was prepared.
So, Stella Winston, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Okay.
And this is Producer's Profile. And my name is Orville Nelson. You've interviewed me once before for my show. And it's so good to have you on the opposite side of the interview.
Right. And thank you for interviewing me. Yes.
Well, I have some questions for you.
Well, before you go
Where
on
is
with the
that?
questions, I need to. The reason why that clip was shown was to show my interest in production. I had that experience with the movie some years ago, and it just fell into my lap because the producer of the show, Kenya Cagle, who used to be a BCAT producer, and in fact, he started the show with Julian Hill called Take It to the Hill. You know who Julian Hill is?
Yes, we worked before together.
Yes, and in fact, now that I recall, I remember doing a BCAT show with Kenya Cagle all those years ago, but it was taped in, it was taped somewhere else, not in the studio. And so that's, I got my taste for production with this movie, because what he did is he did 4 parts to a movie. This was the third one, Fruits of Passion. And with that experience...
And you were in all 4?
No, I was just in Fruits of Passion.
So Fruits of Passion is where it bit you?
Yes, that's exactly where it bit me. And with that experience, I not only, I got to act, I got to sing. No, my voice is not that good, but I had the opportunity to do that. I was involved with pre-production. It was just so much fun. So So I loved it, and as I remember, that is what I love to do.
And you said how long ago was that?
That was almost 10 years ago that I did that. Yeah. So when I was watching BCAT one day, I said, "Oh, I should do that. You know, I should do what I love. I should produce."
Now you have a show here on BCAT.
Yes.
And I know you have, as a producer here myself, I know you've been working very hard.
Yes.
Working with digital images and putting things together. You have a full-time job and you have a family.
Yes,
and
I do.
all that stuff, and you're still here producing a show. What's the name of your show?
The name of my show is Straight Up.
Straight Up.
Originally, it was called The Real Deal, but I found that someone else had a very similar name to that. So my host, Don Briscoe, and I, we decided to go with Straight Up because
It's a good name.
it's a good name because in conversation a lot of times when people talk about different information, the truth, they say straight up.
Straight Up.
So, and that's really what I'm trying to do with my show, and I know that's part of your goal, if that's one of your goals in
In
your
fact,
show.
I was just thinking, and I'm just off the point a little bit,
That's
of
okay.
a music, a record, and where it was a woman singing, and she said, "Straight up, now tell me, is it gonna be me, you forever?" I can't remember her name.
Okay.
But yeah,
I don't know.
it's a very, it means honesty, straight up. So I like the name.
Yes, and that's what I try to search for, the truth.
And excuse my singing.
It's okay. You should hear mine.
Now let me see. There is some questions I have written down here because I wanted to make sure that I got certain things. Ad-libbing is okay for another part. Now, what made you come to the BCAT family? You said that the bug bit you on this particular Fruits of Passion that you acted in. Was that your first role?
That was my first role.
So the bug bit you there. You were watching TV. You were watching BCAT, Brooklyn Community Access Television.
Yes.
And you said, "Hey, let me go down there and try something."
Well, I saw Take It to the Hill.
Take
It
It
was
to the
still
Hill.
being made, and I saw that Julian Hill was the producer. Kenya Cagle was no longer on it. And I gave Julian Hill a call, and we talked, we reminisced, and he said, "Come on down to BCAT. Why don't you join up?" So I did, and it was a long process.
What do you mean by a long process?
Well, it was almost 6 months before I got called down to the introduction meeting. You know, when you come to
So you're on a waiting list,
Yeah, you're on a waiting list. They send you a letter to come down here for the introduction. And I didn't, and that was in December that I was called, but I didn't start classes until April of last year. So it took a while. It took almost a year.
From putting your name and your application
Yes.
in to actually waiting to be called for a, what do they call that again? Orientation.
Orientation. I called it introduction, but you're correct. It's
And then waiting for the actual class itself. You're
Right.
saying it was about a year.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
right.
Okay. Now, this particular show, how long have you had it? Straight Up.
I've had it for 8 months.
For 8 months.
And I started off doing specials. And the first show that I did was on HIV/AIDS. And I know that you are somewhat of an expert on that,
Please
Orville.
don't use the term expert.
Well, you know a lot.
I have an avid interest in
And
it.
I don't profess to know a lot, but I know that that is a disease that is affecting our community. And it's something that has to be addressed or at least examined.
You see the smile in my face.
Yes,
Please.
it's okay. And I know it's HIV/AIDS is tied into other behaviors like drug abuse, sexual behavior. And what I've observed is that in our community, and when I say our community, I'm talking about in the African American community, that drug abuse is what adversely affects it. So I want to examine how all those are connected, and I also want to inform the viewing audience about all three of them: sexual behavior, drug abuse, HIV/AIDS, and so that they can make better decisions about how they go about their lives.
Now, this information that you've acquired by doing these particular shows, have you learned information? Have you constantly learning things about HIV and AIDS?
Well,
Or did you start out, with a supposition that this is so, this is what I've been told? And are you open to constantly hearing and learning these things regarding HIV or anything else?
Yes, I'm very open to it. And like we were speaking about the different treatments, and I'd like to examine the different treatments that are being used for HIV/AIDS, because I was speaking with one of my guests, Thaddeus K, and he said that when he was treated like he was a millionaire, a billionaire, and he got the best treatment going. So, and I wanted to examine that point because for whatever reason he had the connections. But what about the average person who doesn't have those connections? How are they treated? What happens to their lives? And you indicated to me that a lot of people die. A lot of people die.
And because still dying. But it's not as, I don't particularly see it as such a big epidemic as it's being claimed to be. Now, you have a clipping of your show here?
Well, okay, there's a clipping that, this clip of the show is from the last show that I did, and this clip was with the group called Safe Passage. Safe Passage is a Brooklyn-based, I don't know if it's just Brooklyn-based organization, but they have a chapter here in Brooklyn that's a teenage organization that helps teenagers deal with the issues of being a teenager, and also with teenagers who have HIV/AIDS. And so with this clip, you're going to hear one of the teenagers talk about dealing with sexual behavior and promiscuity
and safer sex. And
yeah, safer. But the goal of that show was to let the teenagers talk. I wanted to hear what they're thinking, because a lot of times, you know, the adults will lecture and they'll say things.
We have a tendency to do that.
Yes,
with our so intelligent and smart and wise selves. Could you, my floor manager, would you let us know when that clip is ready? Okay, now with our smart selves, we tend to not allow, as you want to do in your show, allowing whoever comes on to impart the information, especially youth. So here we go. Let's check it.
Most people. I want to ask another question. You know, we talk about peer pressure. You know, you guys are out there, you're living it, you're in school, I mean, your neighborhood, your friends, you know, especially when you're in a relationship, you got a boyfriend or something like that, you got a girlfriend, and you're trying to abstain. You really don't want to go and be ready for a sexual relationship. I wouldn't think a teenager should be, but we know how the world is. What do you do when you have like a boyfriend and he's telling you, hey babe, we've been going out for a while, you know, I'm taking you to the movies, you know, I'm buying you like, you know, a little jewelry, and you know, and he's saying like I want to have some sex with you, girl, because you know I gotta get my groove on. I don't know why. What's wrong with you, girl? You know, like if you don't do me now, then I'm gonna go get somebody else because I can't stick around with you. What do you do under the face of that type of pressure?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't really accept so much things from a guy, and once I say no, it's no, because people, I mean, a guy can't tell you what to do unless he really throws you on that bed or wherever you are and, you know, puts a gun or a knife to your head or threatens to kill you. If he has that type of force, then you have no choice, because, you know, you want to live, you want to save your life. But if he's just saying that out of anywhere, you're just saying, oh, well, I want to have sex with you, and if not, you leave it. No matter how much I love that person, if I'm not ready to do something that I don't want to do, I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's at times where...
that young lady seemed to be very wise.
Yes.
Very wise. Now, is this a particular format that you have? Because I saw lots of people in the studio with you there.
Well, it was the whole group of Safe Passage, and then there were several counselors.
And Safe Passage is located here in Brooklyn?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and there were several counselors there with them, drug counselors that work with the youth. So if you notice that the youth that were talking on one side, and then there were youth on the other side just for support. So they came to support each other because we found that they didn't really want to talk about their particular personal situation.
Were there some actually there who were said to be HIV positive? You don't know?
They wouldn't give up the information.
But do you know if it was anyone there was?
I was told that there were.
Someone
yeah,
there.
right. So,
which is something good to know in terms of looking at our children, because that was obviously our children. They were black people of color, Spanish, Hispanic, and that children are supposedly HIV positive is something that we need to see more of.
yes, and it seems that teenagers, according to Bob Herbert in the New York Times.
Yes, you mentioned it.
Yeah, I got to give you a copy of this article that teenagers don't believe that they're going to get any sexually transmitted disease. That they don't believe that they're going to get AIDS, and in fact, a lot of teenagers think that by having oral sex, that they will avoid all of the pitfalls of having sexual intercourse.
Now, tell me, with the amount of the research you've had, what is actually the incidence of HIV amongst youth?
Okay, now I don't have the exact numbers, but just based on this article, they're saying that blacks as a whole get it at a higher rate than the rest of the groups. For instance, now here I have it for women. Okay, black women, it says 1 in every 160 black women are believed to be infected with HIV. But now you compare that with white men, 1 in 250 white men, and then for white women, it's 1 in 3,000. Why there's such a discrepancy between the black people and
the reported projected rates?
Right. So this is what is reported, and we don't know how true it is.
And who did the study?
And who did the study? So that's where research comes in, and I haven't done that type of research.
Now, with your show, you're looking to do this kind of work also, because we spoke on the phone not too long ago, and we were talking about the shows and the quality that we'd like to bring to air. And so when you get this type of information, no matter from where, this looks like the New York Times, you're willing to go back and double check it and wonder where all these particular statistics came from.
Yes, like where do they come from?
Because you're a school teacher.
Yes, I am.
And you're a school teacher in, what's the subject?
Mathematics.
Mathematics.
Yes.
So you know how statistics are easily bent.
Yes, and you seem to have a very good grasp on how to interpret statistics, which is a topic in the New York City school system that was just incorporated like in the last 10 years. I don't know what your experience was in your math education, but it was never in mine. So it's really good that students are getting a taste of statistics, so that when they read these type of statistics, they can say, well, does this make sense? Where is it coming from?
Where is it coming from? Very important.
Who funded this study?
Very important.
Is it a pharmaceutical company that is going to make money off of the drug that's going to be administered?
And they want these statistics to support the purchase of their particular drugs, whatever they're selling, their product.
But really, the focus of my show is for our community to have conversation, to talk about what's adversely affecting us, and to also look for solutions. I want the conversation to go on between people in our community. I also want to see the connection between slavery, what happened in slavery, and what's going on today. And I've done one show on slavery, and I'm getting ready to do another show this Tuesday on slavery. So I know it's related to what happened way back then. And I know that what I see on the street corner and the way I see our community is based on what happened way back in slavery.
So it seems that your show, and I think a lot of producers here, is community-based, trying to get across to all members of the community a message. And from what it says, you're looking to educate and actually have people ask questions. Is that a good
right? And I would also like for them to hear what's being said on my show and maybe change their thinking a little bit.
Now, what is a show, an ideal show, a show you would like to have done if you can do it next week. What's the show?
Well,
you'd like to
that's
have?
where the drama. I was looking over a few things to come onto the show, and I have some ideas for some dramatic pieces. I would like to do some dramatization on what it was like to be a slave in different situations.
Stella Winston, you are ambitious. Some drama on BCAT,
Like for instance,
BCAT Studios.
well, I would like to one day, but
I
you
would
know,
like to do that myself.
because
I find it very, very
like for instance,
interesting.
yeah, I would love to. Like for instance, a forced breeder resulting from the outlawing of slave trade in 1808. A slave named Charlotte, I named her Charlotte, is forced to have sex with her master after being made to sit in a heap of manure. And I read this somewhere. This is a true story. It is a true story.
Well, Stella Winston, I see you have great plans, and I can't wait to see some of them and to have you back on the show, and maybe have you on my show, and maybe even come on your show, Stella. I wanted to...
It's over already?
Well, well, it's not over as of yet, but
Okay.
I want to make sure we get that information. And when does your show actually air?
My show comes on the second Friday of every month, 10 a.m. in the morning, and it's on Channel 68. So,
And that's the second
second Friday of every month,
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
on
Channel 68, and I think it's 37 Time Warner. Yes.
All right, so please check the air and check for Stella Winston's show, Straight Up, and we look to have much more interaction with you and with more guests here on Producer's Profile.
Thank you for having me.
And you know this is Franz Butler's show.
Oh, and I wanted to give props to Franz Butler. We've collaborated on our openings, and sorry I didn't get a chance to show the
You know
opening.
he's a musician. I don't mean to cut you.
Yes, and I use his music, Restitution from Brimstone, on my opening.
Well, I've used Paradise and a few other pieces from, what is the one he has, that where he's in a trench coat? I forgot the name of the CD. What's
There's
the
Matrix.
Matrix,
His Matrix
yes.
CD.
So more props to Franz Butler for doing such a great show. I think
Yes.
it's warranted for people to see the producers and what they're about and where they're coming from. I am going to, there is a, in terms of your BCAT, your experience, you have been here now for about, in terms of actively, for about 8 months,
Yes.
and you're taking classes also?
Yes, I've taken several classes. I've taken the web page class. I've taken the nonlinear editing, which features Premiere software. I've taken this Photoshop class, and I'm getting ready to take the Quark class.
You've taken more classes than I have. And so this is a place for community to come. Young folks, people in the community who are retired, anyone can come down here and produce a show if they're willing to come and learn.
Yes. And it's a great place to learn and to meet a wonderful group of people.
And
You
to
know,
actually get a message out to the community.
Right. And I've learned some wonderful skills since I've been here. And they're in the actual studio production. Of course, there are many jobs involved. The camera, the Cody machine.
Which is character
Yeah,
generator.
character generator. All the different
Robotic
positions.
camera.
Yeah, robotic.
Hosting,
Hosting.
which you're very good at.
Oh, thank you
I've
very
seen
much.
you.
Thank you very much. TDing,
Lighting,
directing. I've
directing.
directed.
You've directed here?
Yes, I've directed my own show, and I've directed other shows as well.
So you might direct one of my shows, and I
Yes.
would like to have you come in and try something with me.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh,
And also, what I like about the BCAT is that it gives me the opportunity to collaborate with other producers on projects. And although they've been small, like I've really enjoyed the collaboration. Like I work with Franz Butler on his opening. Did you saw the animation in the
yes,
beginning?
which
And
is the first time I've actually seen that kind of thing here.
And what Franz brought to that collaboration was his knowledge of After Effects, which is a program for motion graphics. And I brought to that collaboration the skills with Premiere editing.
And these are both Adobe
Right,
After
both
Effects
Adobe
and Adobe
After
Premiere.
Effects, and of course he brought the music. So it was wonderful to do that. And presently I'm working with Bashira Huda, who has Huda Anissa Guidance of Women. I'm working with her. I'm collaborating with her on her opening. So it gives me the opportunity to fine tune my skills and also to get to know other producers and work with them.
Is this owned by the